I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge a tragic event that took place in South Korea, the devastating plane crash that resulted in the loss of many precious lives. My heart goes out to the families and the loved ones of the victims, and I offer my sincerest condolences during this difficult time. This plane crash is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment with our loved ones. As the investigation into the cause of the crash continues, I want to just extend my sympathies once more to the people of South Korea and to all those who are affected by this tragedy. May the memories of the victims be a blessing to their families, and may they find comfort in the support of their communities and loved ones. May we all take a moment to reflect on the importance of safety, compassion, and kindness, and may we all strive to make this world a better place.
Now to one of the worst plane crashes in aviation history, 179 people killed after a Boeing 737 made a belly landing, skidded off the runway, and slammed into a wall. And now this morning, 5 minutes of mystery. What happened in those final moments before that landing? Britt Clennett is in Muan, South Korea right now with the latest. Good morning, Britt.
Good morning, Gio. Yeah, you can still see the mangled wreckage of that plane behind me here at Muan Airport. And you really get a sense, Gio, of just how sudden and catastrophic it all was. South Korean authorities now say they will carry out a full inspection of the country's Boeing 737-800s, while U.S. officials have landed here to help with the investigation. This morning, US federal officials joining the investigation into the horrific Jeju airplane crash. The Boeing 737 with 181 passengers and crew on board, seen here skidding down the runway on its belly without landing gear, its engine scraping along the tarmac before crashing into a concrete wall. The aircraft then exploding, parts of the plane engulfed in flames and thick smoke. 179 killed, including 5 children as young as 3 years old. 2 people miraculously surviving. A male crew member now receiving treatment in the ICU and a female crew member who is recovering. Korean investigators retrieving the partially damaged black boxes, but say the cockpit voice recorder was intact. South Korean officials saying that on Sunday at around 9 a.m. local time, the flight arriving from Bangkok issued a warning of a potential bird strike. 2 minutes later, the pilot makes a mayday call. The plane makes an unusually quick 180-degree turn, crashing moments later. Jeju is a low-cost carrier with an impeccable safety record. The airline CEO bowing in apology. Distraught family members gathering as the names of the lives lost are read out. Jeon Ji-young's daughter was on board. He said she was almost home. Boeing releasing a statement saying they're working with Jeju Air, adding, "We extend our deepest condolences to the families who lost loved ones, and our thoughts remain with the passengers and crew." So much agony and frustration among those who have lost loved ones. South Korea is in 7 days of national mourning, cancelling its New Year's countdown out of respect for those who died. Will.
Thank you, Britt. Just tragic.
South Korea is observing a week of national mourning after a jetliner crash killed 179 people. People have been paying their respects at a memorial in the city of Muan where the plane went down. South Korea's acting president is also attending the ceremony. It's the deadliest plane crash ever on the country's soil. Only 2 people survived the disaster on Sunday. Both were members of the crew. And investigators are now analyzing the flight data.
Combing the wreckage in search of bodies and answers. Recovery workers have now located both of the aircraft's flight recorders. They will help determine what caused one of South Korea's worst aviation disasters. This is the moment the Jeju airplane skids down the runway at Muan Airport. After failing to deploy its landing gear, it crashes into a wall and bursts into flames. Only 2 flight attendants who were in the plane's tail section survived. Inside the airport, family members have been enduring an agonizing wait as the remains of their loved ones are slowly identified. Jeon Jae-young lost his daughter.
이렇게 It's a catastrophe. It should not have been this bad. No one lived except for the two flight attendants in the tail section. I don't understand why the pilot had to attempt a landing on the runway, only to crash into the wall.
South Korea's acting president said the government is assisting recovery efforts. He expressed his deep remorse.
I offer my deepest condolences to those who tragically lost their lives. I also feel deeply sorry and extend my sympathies to the families. As the acting head of government responsible for the safety and lives of our residents, I feel an indescribable sorrow and profound regret.
Authorities say the plane likely struck a flock of birds as it prepared to land, despite a control tower warning to the pilots.
And journalist Jen Moon joins us on the phone now from Muan Airport. Jen, if you can hear me, what's the latest on the investigation into the cause of the crash?
Right. Teams of investigators, including from the U.S. and South Korea, are now trying to establish what caused Sunday's disaster. But one day after the fatal airline disaster here, the answer as to what went wrong with Jeju Air remains elusive. Now, officials initially cited a bird strike as a likely cause of the crash, though questions do remain over exactly what happened. Like you said, both black boxes, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, have been found. But experts say that a bird striking the engine is unlikely to be the sole factor. They say a bird strike should be a survivable event, and it shouldn't really lead to what we eventually saw, particularly because in any situation where one engine is non-functioning, there's still plenty of power. And many say bird strikes are so common that they're factored into the design of modern planes. So according to experts on a Boeing 737 and any commercial airliner, there are also layers of redundancy, especially for the landing gear, which is hydraulically operated.
Right, so it seems that the landing gear malfunctioned here, and there's reports that another Jeju Airlines flight in South Korea was forced to return to the airport after having a malfunction linked to its landing gear, so a similar problem, and also a similar plane type. Is there any link here?
You're absolutely right. Another Jeju airline flight using a B737 Boeing 737-800 aircraft experienced a malfunction linked to the landing gear today and was forced to return after a takeoff. Whether there's a general problem with this plane, Boeing 737-800, is unknown at this point, but the nation's transport ministry says authorities are considering whether to conduct a special inspection of all 101 Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated by South Korean airliners. So whether there's a general problem with this airline, now that also remains to be confirmed, but concerns have surfaced today that the very Jeju Air passenger plane that crashed at Muan International Airport Sunday had completed 13 flights across 8 airports within 40 hours leading up to the deadly accident that claimed 179 lives.
Okay, so we've talked now about the plane and how the perhaps the type of plane could have led to this tragedy. But a lot of experts are also talking about the airport's construction. We saw in that video how the plane slid across the runway and then hit a solid wall at the end of that runway and burst into flames. What can you tell us about that part of this tragedy?
Right, so it's a new notion that's come up here. Experts who have been reviewing the footage showing that emergency landing, making an emergency landing, but then hitting a wall, have also raised questions over the airport's design. They're criticizing a decision to build a wall there, which is a very solid structure at the end of the airfield. Again, nothing's for sure yet, and all possible scenarios that could have actually played a factor in this devastating accident are all being closely examined and weighed in.
Okay, a lot of questions remaining there. South Korean journalist Jen Moon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. If this kind of content resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for daily news. Thank you.